Hello everyone, this is Andre from SWL. Welcome to episode 20 of my series, the SWL DXing News Report. This episode was recorded on January the 9th, 2025, and it is the first for the new year. Happy New Year to everyone. This year started off with a solar storm on New Year's Day. The sun has reached solar maximum, as we know, and this will last for at least the rest of the year, which means that DXing promises to be full of exciting and unexpected finds this year. We can expect many more solar storms with the accompanying unpredictable DXing conditions, sometimes good, sometimes less good. In this podcast, I talk about radio-related news, frequency changes, new stations, closures, and anything else that might interest DXers and radio lovers. An RSS feed link is available via Spotify. It is in the video description. In this week's episode, I talk about relaxed regulations for community radio stations in the United Kingdom. I talk about a special BBC radio programming that goes out to Syria following the fall of the Assad regime, 100 years of the shipping forecast from the BBC, spurious Iranian signals, a shortwave and medium wave contest, the end of FM for public radio in Switzerland, and some shortwave frequency news. I also have a reception report from Caroline in the United Kingdom. And I end as usual with a quick HF propagation forecast. Legislation was tabled in the British Parliament on the 10th of December to relax certain restrictions on community radio stations. The British Media Minister, Stephanie Peacock, tabled amendments to the Community Radio Order in Parliament to relax advertising restrictions, reports the website Radio Today. The amendments will allow community stations to raise more than the current limit of £15,000 a year from advertising and sponsorship, which they can then reinvest to improve content. These changes will come into effect in April 2025. The amendments will also extend community stations' licenses for a further 10 years, to reduce the administrative costs of reapplying, which previously had to be done every 5 years. Peacock said that community radio has a valuable role on the airwaves and produces truly local content that keeps people connected, engaged, and entertained. Community Media Association chairperson Terry Lee said, by extending FM licenses to 10 years and ending advertising and sponsorship limits for most stations, these changes will provide greater financial sustainability and reduce administrative burdens for our members. The BBC announced on 17 December on its website that BBC World Service will offer enhanced radio services to the people of Syria following the collapse of the Assad regime. These services will be on FM and medium wave. The BBC World Service will air BBC News Arabic bulletins throughout the day. It will also feature packages from the Gaza Lifeline service and contributions from correspondents around the region. There will also be an English offer on the network, curated from World Service English, for those Syrians who speak English. Jonathan Munro, Global Director for BBC News, says, the Syrian population have been left without essential access to reliable and independent news about the events taking place. The BBC World Service's enhanced service will bring them the latest breaking news and analysis from Syria, the Middle East, and the rest of the world. The Syrian radio network will go out on medium wave, 720 kHz and 639 kHz, and also on FM on 93.0 MHz. The BBC World Service has a history of responding to emergency situations globally. Most recently, in November 2023, the BBC launched an emergency radio service for Gaza, which remains on air. The service is produced in Cairo and London and broadcasts on medium wave on 639 and 720 kHz daily. These are the same frequencies as the Syrian service. The Gaza service goes out from 6 to 7:30 UTC in the mornings and from 1300 to 1930 UTC in the afternoon. The BBC's Radio 4 presented various special programs on 1 January this year to celebrate the centenary of the shipping forecast, which still goes out daily on long wave on 198 kHz, and also on VHF and on various medium wave frequencies. Programming on the 1st of January examined the history of the forecast, its future, and also gave reasons why the forecast is still an important piece of information. The BBC says the shipping forecast is embedded deep in the intangible cultural heritage of Britain. Other seafaring nations such as France, the Republic of Ireland, Sweden, and Finland have similarly internalized their own shipping forecasts into the national psyche. It acts as a soothing sleeping partner for some people, as a source of inspiration for poetry, and also for music. Most of the special programs about the shipping forecast are still available as podcasts on the BBC website. There is a link in the description of this podcast to the BBC site with these programs. It is well worth a listen. Thank you to a viewer, Lou, who told me about these special programs. The website Swiss Info reports that the Swiss public broadcaster ended all FM transmissions at the end of 2024. I reported on the planned end of FM transmissions in Switzerland in a previous episode of this podcast series. However, previous reporting suggested that all FM transmitters in Switzerland would be switched off at the end of 2024. This did not happen. As in Norway, another country where the public broadcaster has ended all FM transmissions, private stations are still available on FM in Switzerland and in Norway. In Switzerland, around 24 private radio stations will continue to broadcast via FM and will not discontinue their FM services until the end of 2026. Public radio stations, however, can now only be heard on DAB+ in Switzerland or via internet streaming. Frank SWL F14368 from outside Paris in France is organizing another shortwave and medium wave contest. Frank organizes regular contests like this. The aim of the shortwave contest is to log the most stations from the most different transmitters from around the world. So for shortwave, you can log a station once for each transmitter it uses. For example, if Radio France International uses Issoudun for various frequencies, it counts as one station and one transmitter. The medium wave contest works a little bit differently. The aim of the medium wave contest is to log the most medium wave stations, even if one station uses various frequencies. So if you hear the same station on various frequencies, each frequency counts. You can participate in either the medium wave or the shortwave contest, or both. To participate, you need to create a log with stations you received from the 1st of January. The log must contain the name of your receiver and the antenna you used. You may use a Kiwi or Web SDR, but then you must use the same one for the entire contest. The logs must be taken from the 1st of January to the end of February. For the medium wave contest, your log must contain the date, time, frequency, name of the station, SIO or SINPO code, and the country of the station. For the shortwave contest, your log must contain the date, time, frequency, name of the station, SIO or SINPO, name of the transmitter as well, and country of the transmitter. You can send your log by mail as a normal message in PDF format or in Excel format to swlcontest@gmx.fr. That is swlcontest@gmx.fr before 7 March 2025. Winners will receive certificates. There is a link in the description of this podcast to a website with the full rules for the contest. So you can check out that link if you want to enter and make sure that you follow the rules correctly. Some shortwave frequency news now. I reported in a previous podcast that VORW radio has a new frequency to Asia, namely 17810 kHz. A viewer reported to me that he heard VORW via a web SDR in Qatar at 1611 UTC on Monday, the 16th of December. So this confirms that the VORW transmission can now be heard on 17810 kHz. I've tried for it also, but no luck yet here in South Africa. I also reported previously that AWR has returned to some of its relay sites around the world and I can confirm this as I have picked up most of these relays. You can now hear AWR from Thalata Volonondri in Madagascar on 6065 kHz from 0300 to 0400 UTC and from 1400 to 1500 UTC in Malagasy. You can also hear AWR in Ikpo from Nauen in Germany from 1930 to 2000 UTC on 9525 kHz. And you can hear AWR in Oromo from 1730 to 1800 UTC on 15460 kHz. Myself and a viewer in Russia heard IRIB, Islamic Republic of Iran radio in Arabic. It identifies itself as Radio Tehran in Arabic on 2 unlisted frequencies in December, 15080 kHz and 15095 kHz. I heard it on the 19th of December at 1514 on 15095 kHz, and the viewer heard it at 1230 UTC on 15080 kHz on the University of Twente SDR. For both of us, it was very distorted. I have been monitoring these frequencies since then, but I haven't picked them up again, so maybe these were just spurious signals or maybe some test transmissions, but it's probably worth checking out whether they will go out again on these frequencies, 15080 and 15095 kHz. Ifrikya FM also seems to be using a new frequency, 13855 kHz between 1900 and 2000 UTC. This frequency is listed by the HFCC as Radio Algeria, but I picked it up twice this week and the program format seems to be more similar to Ifrikya FM. I heard contemporary Arabic music and French and Arabic programming, but I haven't been able to hear a clear ID yet.
Il est normal qu'à un moment donné, on ait de l'impatience, qu'on soit pressé de sortir de cette situation-là. Mais comme je l'ai dit, ça peut aussi s'expliquer parce que cette...
So it's worth monitoring this one as well. That is 13855 kHz between 1900 and 2000 UTC. Shiokaze Sea Breeze, the signal that goes out from Japan to North Korea, also has a new schedule, which has been effective since the 6th of January. You can hear Shiokaze Sea Breeze from 1300 to 1400 UTC on 5935 and 6085 kHz. From 1405 to 1435 UTC on 7260 and 7325 kHz. From 1600 to 1700 UTC on 6165 and 6180 kHz. From 1705 to 1805 UTC on 7225 and 7320 kHz. They sometimes also have English programming between 1300 and 1400 UTC and 1600 and 1700 UTC, usually on Wednesdays only. Otherwise, the programming is usually in Korean and Japanese. I have a reception report today from Caroline. She lives in London, but this is a report from Bradford in West Yorkshire, where she spent the Christmas holidays. She used a Shiokaze DX286 with a long wire, and this was on the 28th of December 2024. Here are the stations that she received. 17650 kHz at 1500, an unidentified station. It sounds like it might be Voice of Turkey, this one, with popular music that sounded Arabic. SINPO 44323. 17900 kHz at 1520, Overcomer Ministry from Sofia, Bulgaria. SINPO 33222. 17555 kHz at 1530, Radio Tamazouj from Madagascar. She heard African music. SINPO 33333. 11935 kHz at 1550, Republic of Yemen Radio from Riyadh. SINPO 22222. 17475 kHz at 1600 UTC, possibly Overcomer Ministry. This was English Religious Talk. This frequency is not listed. SINPO 23222. 15425 kHz at 1610 UTC Oromia National Media from Issoudun, France, SINPO 44334. Thank you very much to Caroline for her report, and I would like to encourage all my listeners to please send me your reception reports so that I can share it here. To end then, a very brief propagation outlook based on forecasts from the NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center. As I said at the start of this podcast, the sun has been very active over the past week and over the New Year period, and we can expect quite a lot more activity in the coming weeks. For the rest of this week, solar activity is expected to be at low to moderate levels, with a chance for isolated strong levels due to potential solar flare activity later in the week. Unsettled to active geomagnetic levels are likely on 11 and 12 January, 16 to 20 January, and 31 January to the 1st of February due to coronal hole high-speed stream, that is CHHSS effects. There will be mostly quiet conditions on the 9th and 10th of January, 13 to 15 January, and 21 to 30 January. So in plain English, we are in for some unpredictable and fluctuating HF propagation conditions over the next 2 weeks or so. There will be some nice and quiet days, but there will be many days when the geomagnetic field will be very active. Of course, this means sometimes for some people that your reception actually improves when the geomagnetic field is very active. Some people, on the other hand, just receive nothing. So, keep checking the bands. Keep in mind these dates that I gave here. There is a link in the description of this podcast to a website called Ham Radio for Non-Techies, with clear and simple propagation charts that you can refer to for the latest HF propagation conditions. And you will also find links to the Australian Space Weather Prediction Center in the description. There's also some clear and simple forecasts in those links. That's all for today then. Please send me your news items and reception reports so that I can share them here. If you would like to share reception reports, please tell me your location, the radio you used, the stations and frequencies you received, and please provide SINPO or SIO codes for the signals you received. You can contact me at andre9@duck.com. That is ANDRE, the number 9 @DUCK.com. Happy listening, everyone.